Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Brown Girl Boss. Welcome to the replay for those of you who are here for the replay, and welcome to the live for those of you who are tuning into the live. I am so excited about this show tonight. So I need us to make sure we get folks in here, y'all. If you have looked at the description of what we're going to be talking about tonight, we are going to be talking about sexual empowerment and pleasure and really tapping into what that looks like, sounds like with our guest. So I want to make sure that as many people as possible are in here and ready for this. All right. So I know notifications are going out. I see y'all coming in. As you are getting in here, go ahead and start introducing yourselves in the comments. Let me know where you are watching from. And also let me know if this is your very first time hanging out on Brown Girl Boss BBG TV. Please let me know that in the comments as well. I also would like to ask for you to go ahead and share the broadcast on your page, y'all, and tag some of your friends, honey. Tell them to get on in here, okay? We got some things that we need to talk about. So go ahead and tag your people, and I am going to do that as well. So I'm pulling up my stuff, honey, so that we can let the folks know that we are live. Hey, y'all. Hey, I see you getting in here. Go ahead and start introducing yourselves in the comments. Let me know where you are watching from, honey. Also, let me know if this is your very first time here on BBG TV, because I love to celebrate the first timers. All right. I see Gatanya is here from Chicago. First time checking in. Welcome to the party, honey. Tell your people get in here, girl. Tell them to come on in here. We got some things that we need to talk about. All right. So tag your people. All right. Let me focus, y'all, because it's hard for me to do two things at one time. So hold on. Let me go ahead on and get it shared on my page. Okay. So the people can get in here because we need to talk. We need to talk. Hey, y'all. I see you checking in. Give me 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Let me share it. All right. I did it. Okay. Let's see who we have else here. We have Jeanette is checking in from LA. Very first time. Welcome to the party. Cynthia is here from Clarksville, Tennessee. Cynthia, I used to be around those parts. I graduated from Fisk University. So I'm very familiar with Clarksville. We used to take trips to Clarksville all the time. Welcome to the party. We also have Stephanie checking in from Charlotte, North Carolina, but watching in Niagara Falls. Okay, girl, come on here. First time. Love it. Awesome. Let me see who else. We got Randy is checking in from Atlanta. Excited to have you. We have Carla, first timer, checking in from Chicago. We got Tima checking in from Miami. Oh, I'm so excited. Let me see who else we have. Taisha, I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly, from New Jersey, first timer. We got Tanisha checking in, first timer from Vegas. Let me do y'all a little first time dance because I be getting excited. Okay, when we have our first timers, welcome to all of you. Welcome to our first timers. If you are an OG, you've been rocking with us for a little bit, go ahead and drop your OG in the comments just so that we know who our OGs are, our beautiful brown girls. We are so elated that you all are here tonight, y'all. Stretch them fingers out. Okay, because hey Tamara, I need us to have these fingers ready, babies, so that we can ask these questions, okay, of our guest, honey. We want to ask her all the things that we can while we have her here. Yes, Elise, you are absolutely an OG, love. Welcome back. We excited to have you, okay? Let me see who else. We got Bianca from Atlanta is here. Y'all keep checking in the comments. So this is the thing. Is I need y'all to know what this is, what you are watching. I'm so excited that you all are here tonight. I am ready to dive in, honey. I don't even want to belabor the time. So let me go ahead on and jump into the official welcome. Good evening and welcome to BBG TV Brown Girl Boss. This is our virtual platform that allows us to connect you with other like-minded women who are on a mission to live their very best lives and change their slice of the world. We come to you you weekly with programming that will challenge and inspire you and get the conversation going to connect with other beautiful brown girls. My name is Kimberland, and I live in Medellin, Colombia, in South America. But my feet this week are actually planted in Miami. So I came down to Miami yesterday. If you all have been connected to me and follow me, I was hanging out with Dr. Joy from Therapy for Black Girls last night. So I'm still here in Miami. So Miami in the house, welcome to Miami. But I actually live in Medellin, South America, in Medellin, Colombia. So if you are interested in that, and you're like, girl, say what now? You say you live well. Make sure you go ahead on over to my Instagram at Kimberlyn J and check out that story. It's a lot. It's all sorts of things happening over there. But I am an educational advocate and activist. I am also an intuitive melanated life coach, and I am your host for Brown Girl Boss. And I think I already said this, but I'm going to say it again. I'm so happy to be here. This is literally probably the best part of my weeks when I get to hang out with you all and bring you these amazing women that we go out and search for, right? And tonight's guest is no different, honey. I have been stalking sis for some time, okay? I mean, months, okay? I think I booked her probably back in February. I was like, ma'am, hi, my name is Kimberlyn from Beautiful Brown Girls. I would like to have you on the show, please. And thank. I mean, it was a long time ago, y'all. So I meant that I wanted her on this show, and I cannot wait to introduce her to you all. So first, let me not get ahead of myself. Let me do my housekeeping and the things that need to happen. So, some of you, many of you, are new to Beautiful Brown Girls. So it's important for you to know that everything that we do here at Beautiful Brown Girls is all about sisterhood, support, and self-care. We believe in creating authentic friendships. We believe in building relationships. So one of the reasons that I ask you to share where you are watching from is because you just might meet your next best friend there in the comments. It has happened. It is a thing. Okay. So this community here at Beautiful Brown Girls, it really is a place where we're able to be our beautiful brown selves and just really appreciate who we are and how we show up. So having said that, if you are thinking to yourself, girl, I've been looking for this type of community, honey. I didn't even know y'all was out here. Well, listen, we out here, okay? So I would like for you to check out our VIP Members Network. That is the place where you are able to be even more engaged with us. It is our own social community where we dive into all sorts of things. We got groups over there. We have classes over there. We have challenges over there. We got a book study over there. Like, we have all sorts of things that are happening. And it's our place to be free from the algorithms and all the things trying to hold the brown girl down. Okay. So if you're thinking to yourself, I need that. I need to check that out. Please do go to tinyurl.com/browngirlboss. I just put the link into the chat for you. So please do go there and check us out. Now, while you are here tonight, I am certain that you are going to love the content. I'm not even going to say if you love, you're going to love it. I know that you are. So please give us some reactions, y'all. Give us some likes, some hearts. Like, let us know that you're here with us, that you're vibing with us. Like, you doing the thing, right? This is interactive. This is live. So I'm gonna need you to comment, okay? I need you to be in them comments, honey, telling the things, okay? So make sure that you are commenting, that you are giving reactions. Please share the broadcast on your page. And if you feel led, I would love for you to give some stars. Stars only cost a penny, so that allows us to continue bringing you quality content like this. So if you feel led, please do also give us some stars, because then that'll help us continue bringing you amazing people. All right. So I think that is all the housekeeping that I have, honey. It is time. Okay. It is time for me to tell y'all about our guest tonight. Her energy, I'm gonna let y'all sense it, but I'm gonna tell you what I felt. Her energy is so calming and affirming. And I can let me just tell y'all who we got. Portia Brown is our guest tonight, and she shows up as a sexual empowerment coach, a conscious sexuality guide, and facilitator. She's the founder of Portia Brown Coaching, formerly known as Poetic Sexology, a blog and social media platform that supports women and femmes in living authentic, intuitive, and pleasure-centered lives. Now I'm gonna pause right here for a moment, baby, because the intuitive, honey, that is the thing for me, right? She really does. Y'all will see. I'm trying to tell y'all, but at the same time, I need y'all to see. But okay, so Portia believes that we are all divine and deserving of pleasure, and she spends her days exposing her own truths and troubles as a means to help others. She's been featured in Cosmetology, oh Lord Jesus, I can't even talk, Cosmopolitan magazine, Glamour UK, and she's been on podcasts such as Doing It with Hannah Witten and Am I Making You Uncomfortable from the Huffington Post. When she is not talking about sex, she is indulging in her own pleasure practices, cooking, or watching Survivor with her boyfriend. She can be found most easily through her Instagram account at the Portia Brown. But tonight, y'all, we gotta hear what us. Okay. So she's gonna hang out with us. But I want y'all to answer a question for me too, because I really want to know, and this is gonna help us as we are here. Where did you learn about sex? Y'all start dropping that into the comments, okay? And let me get her in here, honey. Let me get her in here. Hold on, here she comes. Hey, beautiful.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with y'all tonight. It's so good to virtually meet everyone that's here.
Girl, I'm so happy to have you. I really am. When did I reach out to you, Portia? How long ago was that?
It was cold outside. That's all I remember. It was earlier. It was probably 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, I was like, ma'am, we got to make sure we got to make this happen, okay? So I am just so glad that you accepted the invitation. So grateful and just excited to be sharing this space with you tonight. So
of course, talking about sex with other Black women and femmes is literally what I live for. So I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Come on, that's what I'm talking about. Cause girl, I got questions. Y'all get y'all's questions ready, okay? But I got questions. So the people don't ask questions, Portia, I got plenty of them. Okay. Okay. So I just asked them a moment ago where they learned about sex. So that's coming into the comments. So we'll be able to look at that in just a second. But what I would like to know from you, if you could start us off by sharing how you got into this work. Like, how does one get to this place of becoming a sexual empowerment coach? Share that story with us.
Sure. So to answer the question, how does one become a sexual empowerment coach, or how does one come to do this work? There are so many different avenues. I did not know that until about 3 years ago. My story starts right before puberty. My mom, I tell this story all this time. So if there's anyone out there that's heard me on a podcast or an IG live, you've heard this before, but my mom gave me a book when I was like 11 or 12, which immediately triggered in my mind, like, oh, she's never going to talk to me about this, about sex. And I was already curious and my body was changing. I was entering puberty. So she gave me this book about my period. It was called My Body, My Choice. Almost every child of the 90s probably had a book similar to this, right? And I read it and I was like, okay, that's cool, whatever. But like, I still have so many questions about what's happening with my body, my development, and what is this thing that I keep hearing about, which was sex. So I grew up 2 blocks from my local library. Me and my sister, it was one of the few places we were allowed to go by ourselves because it was closed. And my mom knew all of the librarians. She was on the library board. So I spent a lot of time there, and I spent a lot of time going through the bookshelves, reading as many books as I could about sex and intimacy. Some of the books were not exactly age appropriate. I was telling you the other day, I even tried to check out a book as a young person that wasn't age appropriate, and the librarian looked at me and said, absolutely not.
She was like, nah, sis, nah.
Take this. But it started an early curiosity about sex, and it also gave me somewhat of an educational foundation, a science-based understanding about sex and intimacy and my period and puberty and all these other things. So fast forward to college, I'm finally starting to have sexual and intimate relationships. I'm having conversations with my friends about their sex lives. And I'm noticing that, like, a lot of my male partners and my friends do not have a clear understanding about sex. They're perpetuating a lot of myths. They have a lot of questions about things that I have a little bit more clarity about. And at this time, I'm also becoming obsessed with other sex ed content creators and all of that good stuff. And so I thought there has to be some way for me to learn more about this. There has to be some way for me to provide education to my campus. So I did a little bit of research, and I found out that there was an organization on my campus that did just that, that passed out condoms, that taught students where to get STI testing, taught students about consent, and so on and so forth. But I didn't know still that there was a career opportunity for me to talk about sex and intimacy for a living. So I got my degree in journalism.
Okay.
And a few years after I graduated, I realized that that wasn't necessarily the avenue for me. I went to school to become a news reporter, which I did. And one day I was talking to my partner, who's literally on the other side of the store behind me, and he was like, you should do something with sex. I don't really know what it is, but like, you're always watching YouTube content about it. You're always listening to podcasts about intimacy and relationships. Like, why don't you do something with that? So I thought about it. And in October of 2019, I started my first Instagram account where I thought, I'm just going to turn this into a blog. I'm just going to talk about my sexual experiences. I'm going to talk about the myths that I see perpetuated in society, especially amongst Black women and femmes and amongst the Black community about sex and intimacy. And the whole thing sort of snowballed. And eventually I grew a little community where I learned, oh, there's this thing out there called a sex coach or a sexual empowerment coach, something that you can actually do. And so I began to pursue that. And now it has been just over 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So first of all, let me say, I ain't get no book, Portia. Okay.
That was all I got. It was the book.
I ain't even get that though. I ain't even get that. Okay. And looking in the comments, it's I want to bring some of these up of where our people found out about sex. So let's see. My dad, trial and error, siblings and videos. Somebody else in your both sneak reading books from the library. My mom, cousin, and friends, a book. So somebody else had a book. Let's see, friends mainly. Where else? My friends. Yeah. So, somebody said Zane books. I used to read the Zane books, honey, until I'm gonna get to that, and so I'm gonna bring that back up in a moment because that's where I want to start. So yeah. Let's see, Planned Parenthood. Okay, we had a couple folks, friends, and my school. Okay, I ain't getting no book. Portia wasn't no book, wasn't no conversation, wasn't no nothing. Okay, it was literally from my friends, and my friends. I love y'all. My elementary and middle school friends, but they was stupid. They didn't know what they was talking about, girl. They was just out here making stuff up, right? So I had no earthly idea. And I remember the programming that I would receive about sex was, you bet not be doing it. So that's it. That is the only program about sex and about my body, right? So it was like, you've had your period so you can get pregnant. So don't be out there having that sex. That was it. Yeah. That was it, right? So I think I appreciate you for walking us down that path, because so many of us can identify with not having had that knowledge and having these misconceptions of what sex looked like and what we could expect. So I said that I would come back to the Zane comment, right? Because I really used to read like Zane books, and it was another author, what's his name was? Eric Jerome Dickey, and Yeah, it was a couple of them, right? And then I stopped reading them because I was told I was going to hell. And that's where I want to start because I feel like a lot of the programming that we have gotten has come with this assignment of the fact that sex is not supposed to be pleasurable. It's not a good thing. And if we engage in any type of activity, specifically outside of a heteronormative marriage, then to hell with you.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that, please?
Yeah. Whether or not you grew up in the church, and it sounds like you did, I know that I did. I grew up in a very conservative, Christian, Midwestern, Black family where the messaging was nothing at all, or if you have sex, you're going to get pregnant and die and bring shame upon your entire family. Oh, and you're going to go to hell.
Correct.
If
You
you
can't forget the hell. Can't forget that with the gasoline draws on. Like,
most importantly, you're going directly to hell, one-way ticket. And that is something that has plagued the Black community for, I would guess, at least since we have been a community here in America, right? That knowledge, that way of thinking, and that narrative. And what that does is it causes, let me back this up. Let me back up. Anybody who told you that, because I don't believe in demonizing our elders, right? If there's one thing I know about my elders, it's that they love me. They love me and they want to look out for me and they're protecting me. So all of that messaging comes from a place of love and protection and tenderness and wanting what is best for you, though it may not be rooted in the actual factual truth, right? So I just want to begin by saying that. And what it does when we have that narrative floating throughout our communities is it makes sex taboo to talk about, right? This trigger warning, this might be a little bit sensitive for folks out there, but a lack of knowledge around sex and intimacy can lead to a lot of violence, and that also plagues the Black community, right? So while there's this silence around sexuality, there's also this misunderstanding or lack of communication around sexuality that can be really dangerous, especially for young Black girls, right? And so I want to bring it upon all of us and charge us all with doing our due diligence to decide how do we, within our own communities and with our own families and with our nieces and nephews and the young people in our lives, how do we want them to think about sex? Do we want to think of it as this negative thing that can only happen within a marriage between a man and a woman, which we know is not what's happening? It's just not the lived reality of most young people. It's not the lived reality for most of us in here, right? Or do we want them to know the truth about sex, which is that it is a beautiful thing that can, yes, bring babies and all this other stuff, with whether you're ready to or not? Or do we want them to know this is something that's a powerful tool for your pleasure and a way for you to connect with other human beings and also yourself? Because sex wasn't only bad when it was with another person. It was also bad when it was just with yourself.
Because we're going to talk about that in a second. But go ahead.
Yeah. I've had multiple clients who are married, right? To a man in heterosexual married situation. And that message still resides within them, and they have a hard time, and they have a lot of guilt and a lot of shame around sex because since they were itty bitty, they were taught this is something you should avoid and something you shouldn't be doing. And they were never told how to think about it after they were married or once they were in a committed relationship. So there's a lot of religious trauma. There's a lot of residue from purity culture that's all over the Black community that we now get to look at each other, look at the people in the room with you right now in this virtual space and say, what are we going to do and how do we want to reclaim this experience for not only ourselves, but for the people coming after? That's why I do this work, right? What's happened to me and what's been taught to me, it's already been imparted in me. It's a part of who I am. And while I like to say I'm on an unending sexual healing journey, while I'm on it now, and I can do some unlearning, that's a beautiful part of my experience. But what I'm really concerned with is who's coming behind me and what knowledge are they going to be armed with.
Yeah. And when you mention that, so I taught middle school for a long time. And every year I had a girls mentoring group. And even when I didn't, just with my girls, but when I was in the classroom, it was important to me to make the space to give them the opportunity to ask questions. I couldn't ask questions. I got in so much trouble if I asked any question about anything that had to do with my body, anything at all. So, in my having the ability to directly impact and influence the future, I was like, these babies got questions. Portia, I just want to tell you a few of the misconceptions that the children had. Okay. They would say things like, Miss, if I get pregnant, can't I just drink bleach and get rid of the baby? And I was like, yeah, um, you that will definitely get rid of the baby, and that will also get rid of you, love. Like that's not how that works. Um, the babies were in the back of the school bus. Now I taught middle school, right? But this is probably starting about second, third grade, in the back of the school bus, engaging in sexual activities. Like there was so much happening with our youth that I couldn't take it. I could not take it. So you still there, Portia? Hold on, y'all. I think she might have froze. I think she might have froze. Okay, so we gonna you still there? There you go. There you go. There you go. Were you able to hear me?
Okay, I heard you, but then you broke up a little bit. Now you're back. Now you're back.
No
Can you hear
worries.
me?
No worries. Yes. So I
Okay.
was saying that when I was in school, like the children would say things like, can I drink bleach to get rid of a baby if I get pregnant? They would be on the back of the school bus as early as second, third grade, engaging in sexual activities. They were watching porn, and their idea of sex and what sex looks like is, brazzers and, the bang, 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 like no intimacy and softness and all of those things. It was so disturbing, right? So when you say that you do this work a lot for those who are coming behind us, talk to me about how we can heal some of those that programming that has been placed on us so that we can do that same thing, so that we can break those cycles for the people who are coming behind us. Oh man, see y'all, this ain't nothing but the double. No. So while we figure out what's going on with the connection, it is so interesting that this started happening because everything was fine all of a sudden ago. And we get here talking about the sex, honey, and now all of a sudden the things ain't working. So I want to grab some of y'all's comments because I had asked you all what are some of those negative programmings, right? That you have received. Okay, I see she's back. I'll bring her back up in 1 second. So I saw that a lot of you said things like once you reach a certain age that you shouldn't be interested in sex, or that sex is only for procreation and not for recreation, right? So let me get Portia back in here. All right. So let me know. Did you hear what I was saying?
I did. I was trying to
Okay.
respond and then
No
I got
worries.
kicked out.
Go ahead,
You
honey.
were, you
Respond.
were asking about the types of programming that we need to be looking out for,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this can be a really deep rabbit hole. It can get as nitty gritty and specific as what positions you should do and not do, what it means to be a good girl. A lot of these narratives are generated toward women and femmes and not so much men and masculine people in the community. It's mostly
Mm-hmm.
it's mostly girls that are in charge of like making sure there's no sin and debauchery happening. Um, what kind of clothes you should wear, what kinds of things you should say and not say. sex is only for marriage and only up until a certain age. If you're not really procreating, then what is the point? Something that impacted me deeply was this idea that sex for the first time has to be painful if you're a woman, right? And it impacted me so deeply that I had a really patient first partner, I guess I'll put it that way. And so when we started having sex, my body was ready, right? And it didn't hurt. So I was very confused. I left the experience very, very confused. Like, what is it that just happened to me? Did we do it right? Like, what happened, right? But I didn't understand that experience did not have to be painful. Some of the more harmful things that we can encounter are like things around consent and what it means to consent inside and outside of a marriage, right? People feeling entitled to other people's bodies, from things as simple as a hug or a handshake all the way down to sex, right? And having all of this silence around sex and intimacy means that we can't talk about these things, and we can't say to the young men in our communities, hey, this is what consent looks like. And we can't say to the young women in our communities, this is what it looks like to give or revoke consent in your experiences. I could go on for days about the narratives that we have, especially those that are rooted in purity culture. And the majority of it has led us to this place where at least the people I'm working with and the clients that I've encountered, the conversations I'm having with Black women are revealing that we are not having happy and fulfilling sex lives. We are either feeling lots of guilt and shame. That means we are just going through the motions, perhaps, with ourselves and our partners, and not really knowing or understanding how to communicate what it is that we really need, want, and desire. Or we're performing what we think sex is supposed to look like. We're performing how we think we are supposed to show up in sexual situations, and maybe doing things that we think our partners expect from us without really interrogating, what is it that I really want from this experience? What is it that I need? And making that the central focus of our interactions.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm sorry. I got goosebumps as you were talking, because I was just thinking to myself how deeply a lot of this runs. So I'm wondering, and I'm sure our community and the people who are watching are wondering, how do we start to heal that? How do we start to heal the trauma and the relationship that we have with our sexuality?
Yeah, I would say, number one, it's going to have to start with you. It's going to have to start. And when I say that, I mean your sexual and intimate relationship with yourself. I always say the most important intimate relationship you're going to have is with you. You are your primary sexual partner. You are your most common sexual partner, or at least you can be if you choose to engage in that way with yourself. I'm a huge advocate, especially for Black women, for self-pleasure. I think that this is the space where we can learn the most about ourselves, our sexualities, our needs, and our wants and desires, so that we can translate our findings to our partnered experiences, right? And it also is a good way to experience self-care and self-love, whether you have a partner or not. It doesn't always have to be your partner. So having a really honest conversation with yourself about what sex and intimacy looks like with you, just you, is a good place to start. Observing that relationship without any judgment or expectation, and engaging as often as you can without any judgment or expectation. So if you are someone who has never self-pleasured before, you don't masturbate, right? And you try to engage with yourself and it doesn't go the way that you think it will. Don't have any judgment, don't have any expectations. Simply observe what it is that is happening in your experiences with yourself. I'd also encourage everybody to observe without judgment what their experiences are with their partners and past partners. Have a really honest conversation with yourself about who it is you are with or have been with and why. What are the most fulfilling and happy sexual experiences you've had and why? And what are some of the things that you are fantasizing about, you secretly desire, but are too afraid to express? And what's keeping you from expressing them? Having a good internal dialogue about all of these things is a good place to start. And I would also add to that. So internal dialogue, honest conversation with yourself. Second thing I would advocate for is to actually go and get some good sex education. If you live in the United States of America, you probably did not receive a comprehensive sex ed. Right now in 2023, I think it's about 18 of our 50 states are required by law to have medically accurate sex education. That's not pleasure centered. That's not queer inclusive. That's not pro-Black sex ed. That's not intersectional sex, just medically accurate, 18 states. Right? So we're not even at the baseline. And most of us are not in middle school right now. So we're working with 80s, 90s numbers, which was definitely less, right? My sex education that I got in the 8th grade was basically, these are what STIs you can get from having sex. Here's what they look like. Here's what genital warts look like. I now know that the most common STI symptom is nothing at all. So all those graphic pictures my teacher was showing me, those were scare tactics. And then I watched The Miracle of Life, which was a birth video. That was my entire sex ed experience. And likely many of you here listening had similar experiences, right? So that means that in adulthood, even though you might be having sex with yourself and partners, there are probably things that you don't know about your body. There are probably things about your anatomy that you've overlooked or haven't had an opportunity to be properly introduced to. So start looking on the internet. For sex educators like myself, there are way more sex educators out there than anybody even thinks about, right? People who specialize in educating adults in sex ed and not children and people under 18. And get yourself some proper sex education. That can be a podcast, a book, finding a YouTube channel, whatever it is. I think those are sort of the two pieces of the puzzle that are most often missing and can be fertile ground for you to grow and heal and create change in your own life and in your community as well.
I love that you said in the time spending with ourselves, like asking ourselves and reflecting on the experiences and asking questions and the why. Why did you enjoy this? Why did you not? One of the things that I've heard you say several times that I have adopted into my life, but I want you to expand on, is this idea of curiosity over judgment, right? Which is something that we struggle with, because what I was going to ask you at first was like, how do we silence the noise? Portia, like, how do we, when you're saying have self-pleasure, how, girl? I'm sitting here thinking my hand gonna get cut off every time I think, you know what I mean? Like, so there's so much, there's just so much there. But how do we get ourselves to a place where we are able to silence that noise and get to this place of noticing without also accepting and bringing on the shame, the guilt, and all of those things? What tips do you have for us, please and thank you?
Yeah, of course. We have to start by acknowledging that if you're noticing, I'm having trouble being authentic in my sex life, which is usually if we had to distill it down, that's the core issue. I'm struggling with authenticity in my sex life. That's not something that just popped up overnight. So we have to remember this is a journey. Earlier, you heard me say, I am on a lifelong commitment to healing. So the first thing is orienting your mindset around the idea that this is something like my finances, like my health and nutrition, like an instrument, if you play an instrument, right? This is something that you're going to incorporate as a practice, right? And continue to learn about and be curious about throughout the duration of your life. There is no end goal in sexual liberation and empowerment. There is no zenith, there is no highest point, there's no end, right? There's no finish line. So begin by orienting your mind around the idea that, okay, this is something I'm going to have to practice being curious about for as long as I am sexually active, and perhaps even beyond that. If you're someone that's dealing with religious trauma, purity culture, and all of the guilt and shame that comes with that, I want you to know that your number one ally is going to be community. Communities like this, where conversations like this are happening, other online spaces and communities. You can begin to turn your current sister circles and friend groups into those safe spaces, right? By advocating and asking for them. People are ready to talk about sex. People want to talk about sex more than you know. So if you bring it up and you attempt to make it a safe space within your friend groups already, those people can also be your ally. Shame thrives in darkness and secrecy. You say to people that you love and trust, I've noticed I'm struggling with X in my sex life, or I'm feeling a lot of shame. How are you all dealing with this? How are you navigating this? Is this something you've experienced as well? And what did you do? The moment you shed light on it, the shame begins to dwindle. And I'm not saying it's going to disappear just because you confessed it to a friend. I'm never going to claim that. But that's a good place to start. Is to find people that you can trust and say, this is something that I'm dealing with. And this is something that I am working on right now, right? And more likely than not, the friend that you're sitting across from will look at you and say, either I've been there or I'm there right now with you. This is such a common issue, and it's everywhere. I would also say there are resources out there for all of us. We started this conversation with books. Just like you would want to find a book to learn about investing, just like you would want to find a book if you wanted to learn about gardening or whatever. There are so many resources out there to help you deal with things like sexual shame, guilt, inauthenticity. There are podcasts out there, all of those things. So treat it like this is something I'm going to learn about right now. This is what I'm going to invest in and observe about myself. I'm going to keep a journal about it, maybe. I'm going to start to write what happens when I try to self-pleasure, or I had a really great sexual encounter with my partner this weekend. Let me write the things that were really good and go from there and let your journey unfold from that space.
Yeah. I'm here, but I'm also in my mind like, cool, so I need to write about that. Because I honestly have never, I have had conversations and reflected after a sexual experience, but to the depth of how you are describing, and specifically, definitely not with self-pleasure. Like I have not like reflected and been like, what worked, what didn't work, like blah, 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 right? I have not done that. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to sitting with that and getting curious and thinking about what actually is coming into my mind. What am I actually feeling? Like what are the other pieces of it? Not just because this is the other thing. I'm sorry, I don't want to take us off track, but I do need to say this. This is the other thing, because I feel like in self-pleasuring practice, a lot of times we view it as getting to completion. And what I've heard in the streets is that is not really what we should be focused on.
No, not at all. And so I'll say a few things in response to that. And this is bringing up a really excellent point. A lot of people's relationships with themselves, the intimacy that they have with themselves is not intimate at all, right? It's purely transactional. I'm going to roll over. I'm going to grab this toy. I'm a huge fan of toys, by the way, but I'm going to grab this toy and I'm going to do this, have an O, and go to bed. or
Right.
I'm stressed, or I'm bored, and I'm gonna get to the
Knock
finish
it
line
out.
and move on with my day, relieve some stress, etc., etc. If you're someone who has never had an O, that's a terrible mindset to have, right? It's one of those things where the more you chase it, the more elusive it becomes, and the harder it becomes to accomplish or experience, right?
Mm.
I'll tell you about my self pleasure practice, and
Okay.
this is not every time, okay? I
Mhm.
have transactional sex with myself from time to time because sometimes you do just need to get off and go to bed,
Mhm.
and that's fine. But it's the lack of nuance in our experience that can create problems, that can create feelings of stuckness and a lack of evolution in our sexual identity and experiences with ourselves. So, my favorite way to have a sexual encounter with myself is to begin by setting the mood. I think, like, if this was my birthday, this was like a 10-year anniversary, how would I set the mood for this moment with a partner? And how can I
Mm.
give that to myself? How can I change the sheets, light some
Mhm.
candles, turn the
Mhm.
lights around, put on a little playlist, etc., and be with myself? And then after my space is comfortable and I feel properly romanced within myself, I like to mentally set an intention with myself.
Okay.
What is the purpose of me taking this time out for myself?
Mhm.
Am I trying to connect with myself? Is there a question that I have that I want to be able to answer by the time I'm finished because my body is relaxed and I'm feeling very connected,
Mm.
et cetera, et cetera? So set the mood, set an intention, and then do whatever it is you need to do. But being with yourself and experiencing pleasure throughout the experience and not just thinking, oh my gosh, I have to get off. When am I going to orgasm? When am I going to be done? When am I going to be done? Creates such a different experience with yourself. And it also changes the wiring in your
Mhm.
brain around sex and intimacy and orgasm that you have when you're with your partners as well. Can you imagine if you were with someone and they were like, oh my gosh, when am I going to get off?
Right.
It's over. Like, why do we do that to
I
ourselves?
don't know.
Why do we rush the experience with ourselves? Why do we? Do you have any foreplay with yourself? Can you imagine a partner
Right. Just
not
going into it. Lay down and let's get this done and go to bed. This does not
exactly?
sound enjoyable.
No. So think about, like, all right, so once a month, I'm going to set aside an hour to be with myself, or once a week, or whatever feels realistic for you. And I'm going to give myself like 10-year anniversary sex, but it's just going to be me. What would
Mhm.
that be like? Whatever mindset you would have with a partner, how can you bring that into your solo experiences? You deserve at least that much.
Mm. Girl, you got me over here thinking for real, for real. And it's just because the way that you're framing this, I have not really thought about it per se. But I feel like my life is kind of going in that direction because one of the things that I've found when you said like foreplay, right? And getting in this space of what would I give myself is my shower routine
Hmm.
lately has become so enjoyable for me that I look forward to it. I'm like, which is, I have issues with bathrooms and I'm gonna do a podcast episode about that. But having a shower, like looking forward to a shower has never really been a part of my life. Like, you have to take a shower because you got to wash your behind. Like, that's kind of how it's been. But lately I've been getting into setting the mood. Let me get my essential oils. Let me get my eucalyptus. Let me turn on this green light. Like, let me use these specific bath products that smell really amazing. Let me exfoliate. Like, it's become like this whole thing. And then that extends into let me moisturize. Let me use my shea butter. Let me use my serum. Let me use this scented lotion and put on some perfume. And that is the foreplay. So
Oh,
as you're talking, like I'm thinking to myself how much I enjoyed that and then how I could take that then into this self-pleasure practice. And I have not in real life, Portia, made the connection before just now. And I'm like, ma'am, Let me go ahead and log. No, just wait.
Let me go log off. No, but it can be that simple. It can be that easy. And if we look at our lives, there are hopefully already little pockets of our bodies are designed for pleasure. Our bodies are constantly begging us to pay attention to the small moments, the little glimmers of feeling good that are available to us every single freaking day. Your senses, your 5 senses are how you know you're alive and having a human experience in these bodies. But there's also endless pleasure available through each and every one of them. And they're working all of the time, right? So there are probably little pockets of pleasure moments, pleasure practices that we're already creating for ourselves, like you're sharing. And if not, there are opportunities if we just pause and look around us and say, what's going on in my room? What feels unaligned? What feels amiss? How can I make this a more enjoyable experience? Or like you did, what's a part of my day, something that I have to do that I don't really like, but I could amp up a little bit, right? And make a more comfortable experience for myself, right? Whether it's you have a long drive to work, maybe you can curate a playlist that makes you feel good, or find something that smells good to put in your car, or call a friend, right? And have a good conversation, or listen to a podcast that you really, really love and enjoy, whatever it is that you can do safely while you drive. But what is the pocket of pleasure? What is the moment that you're going to give yourself to feel good? And for me, a lot of the women, especially Black women that I work with, we have a hard time with feeling good.
That's what I was just about to say, Portia. I was about to be like, do we even know how to do we even know what pleasure looks like, right? Because I feel like even the word pleasure is connected to sex, which then further stigmatizes it and gets us in this place of that's wrong. I can't feel that. When in actuality, I can get pleasure from eating some grapes that I really like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I find that for me and for a lot of the women I work with, the stumbling block is pleasure and rest. And I think we are learning how to do those things. I think we're finally having this conversation around, you know what, Big Mama, her mama, my mama, they never sat down. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to find rest. I'm going on a retreat. I'm taking the vacation. I'm living the soft life. We're finally starting to have those conversations. And yet, for many of us, they're still just that. They're conversations. They're not integrated into our lives because we don't know where to start. And for me, I like to go to the source. I like to go to the root. And for me, and the reason I do this work is because sex and pleasure is the darkest corner in that conversation. So let's go there and figure that out.
Yeah. Oh, I love this so much. So we have a question, and then I have a couple questions that were also submitted ahead of time that I want to ask. Right. So Taisha said, what is the difference between sex, pleasure, and intimacy? Good question.
I love this question. And I want to start by saying everyone gets to develop their own definition for each. That's part of the journey. But I'll share with you mine. Sex, most sexologists, sex researchers cannot fully agree on what sex is exactly, right? To me, sex is something where you attempt to release sexual tension. That can be by yourself, it can be with a partner, and it can be done in a plethora of ways. So that's my vague definition of sex. Pleasure is the experience of being present to your senses, to me, to the senses that feel good, right? And being fully embodied in that. Intimacy, I've been having this conversation a lot. And who was it? This is not me, but I'm adopting this definition for myself. Intimacy is the ability to show up however the fuck you are, show up ugly, show up beautiful, show up sad, show up happy, and still be safe with yourself or another person or a group of people. But again, everyone gets to develop their own definitions for all of these words and experiences, because sex, you can ask me, did you have sex last night? And I could be like, yeah. And I could be talking about sex I had with myself, or I could be talking about going down on my partner, but nothing happened for me. And for some people, those things are not sex. Sex is only this. It's only penetration, right? So the definitions vary. And even again, with sex psychologists, sexologists, and sex researchers, there's no
standardized definition.
Yeah, there's no solid definition that we can use to say this is what sex is. Pleasure for everyone is going to be different. You may think pleasure is tied to food, or pleasure is tied to sex, or you may have a more holistic view of what pleasure can be and what that experience is in your body. And same thing with intimacy. Intimacy is another word that is tied often to sex, right? It's this ultimate form of being with someone. But there's so many different types of intimacy. There's physical intimacy, there's intellectual intimacy, there's emotional intimacy, and so on, right? So it all depends on what conversation we are having and who are we talking to.
Yeah, I love that we get to decide what that looks like for us, right? Because it feels empowering. It feels like I get to say that this is what this means to me, not that somebody else told me that this is what this is supposed to mean, and then I have to rectify that in my head. So that felt really good in my body when you said that. Like, you get to decide what is sex and what isn't sex. You get to decide what is pleasurable. Like, that felt good to me. So I appreciate you breaking that down, because yeah, that was good. We're gonna have to clip that and run that back, because that was really powerful for me. And that is one of the things I think that I'm gonna be stewing on for a little bit and thinking through that. So a lot of the questions we had asked our community prior to the show. Submit any questions that you want to ask during the show, whether you're here or not, whatever. And there was a theme of questions about women who no longer feel, or don't, I don't want to say no longer, but don't feel sexy. They may have, let's say, recovering from breast cancer, or their body has changed, or maybe they have had a hysterectomy. Like, there are things that have happened physically that are mentally, emotionally, sexually affecting them, and it's hard for them to show up in that space. What advice do you have for women who might be experiencing that?
I love this question. I have a sister that's a breast cancer survivor, and we had this conversation after she wrapped up her surgery and chemo treatments. And I've had many clients who've had injuries, surgery, motherhood, right? Things that alter your relationship with your body. After those experiences, who you are is completely changed. And how now do I relate to this new body, this new home in a sexual way?
Yeah.
I want to begin by saying, give yourself grace and let it be slow. There's no rush. There's nowhere to get to. There's no end goal. Lean into your communities and find people that are having similar experiences so you can have someone to talk to and share this with. Because again, sometimes it can feel like I'm the only one dealing with this, and you are not the only one dealing with this sort of change and transformation within your body. We'll go back to the idea of getting curious. How can you be curious about this new experience and drop the comparison to what was and how things used to be? Because unfortunately, that is gone, right? We can still hold those experiences near and dear. We can still reminisce, but we don't have to compare. What is now is not necessarily better or worse. It's just different. It's its own thing. So how can you allow this to be its own experience? I would also encourage you, we live in a beautiful time. I have a complicated relationship with social media, but this is one of the areas where I think it comes in handy to have an active social media. or one that you at least like to look at and observe. Find other people who've had your experience online. If you're a breast cancer survivor, find someone who has also had that experience and maybe seems to be feeling comfortable in their body. If you're someone who's a new mom, where are the new mommies out there that maybe didn't snap back but are still finding ways to feel comfortable in their body? Having that representation on your phone instead of Instagram model after Instagram model after Instagram model, that's not healthy. Those girls don't even look like that. Most people in the world don't look like that. So how can you get some representation that reflects your experience and what you're going through, so you can realign and readjust your expectations for what your reality is, quote, supposed to look like, and also get reacquainted with the idea of what it means to be sexy. Our idea of what sexy, the window for sexy, is so narrow. Allow it to be. But when we begin to open our eyes and look, we begin to observe that sexy actually comes in a lot of different packages.
Yeah.
Sexy comes in all shapes and sizes and bodies. So I'd invite you to interrogate and investigate, what does it mean? What is my expanded version of what a sexual being can look like, right? How can I reclaim that for myself? Because at the end of the day, our ideas around beauty and sexuality, we know, are Eurocentric, and they're steeped in white supremacy and ableism and heteronormativity. And if you don't fall into those windows, and hello, most of us do not,
Right.
it can be very easy to feel like, oh, I don't fit into that category, so I don't get to have this feeling and this sensation in my body. So how can you begin to reclaim that? It's a form of activism. It's a form of fight towards liberation for our collective, and as well as your individual journey.
Yeah. Ooh, girl. Listen, our time is up, child. I can't wait to go back and watch this replay. I need you to tell the people how they can work with you. They're watching and they're like, I like her vibe and I need some support. How can people work with you?
Well, first, let me say thank you so much for being such a great host. Thank you all for bearing with us through technical difficulties and being so enthusiastic throughout this conversation. I love talking to people about sex and intimacy. So I just want to say thank you, first and foremost. If you're looking for a sex coach, you're a woman or a femme out there who wants to attain a specific goal around your sexuality, whether that be, I'm ready to try to have an orgasm, or I want to improve my communication skills, or I want to gain more sexual confidence, or something along those lines, you can go to my website. What is my website? PortiaBrownCoaching.com and learn more about my one-on-one coaching experience. I do offer a 3-month and 6-month coaching experience for women and femmes who want to attain a specific goal and work through something specific in their sex lives. I also offer a group coaching opportunity that I will be launching for the second time this fall, called Sacred Village, which is specifically for Black women and femmes who want to go on a sexual healing journey, begin their sexual healing journey in a group with other Black women. It's a good time. I always compare it to going to brunch with your friends every other week for 4 months, or having a picnic with all of your Black girl besties and talking about sex in a real way and in a supportive way and in a very, very expansive and explorative and curious container. So if you want to learn about that, I would encourage you to join my newsletter. That will be launching in the fall. So if you're on my newsletter, you'll be among the first to know about Sacred Village. Obviously, you can follow me on social media. My handle's on the screen. I'm on TikTok sometimes, mostly Instagram and Twitter if it doesn't get shut down, at the Portia Brown. So if you follow me, DM me and say hi. I want to know how we are connected.
Awesome. So y'all, if you will drop into the comments, one thing that I know it was a lot. So if it's more than one, go ahead and drop that too. But at least one thing that you are taking away from the time tonight. I've been seeing your comments coming in. Thank y'all. I told y'all I was stalking, sis. Okay, she probably didn't know that, but I was stalking. I was like, she's got to be on this show. So Again, thank you, Portia, so much for all of this. You have inspired a lot of thought and reflection and opportunity to break some cycles that
Mhm.
we may not have even been consciously aware of, in how we can improve this relationship with ourselves, and then that also spill over into our relationships with our partners. I am just so full right now and wanting to, like I said, watch the replay. I'm like, I got the girl, I got to clip this, I got to send it to a few people. Like, this has been so phenomenal. And I really just want to thank you from a very, very deep and real place for the way that you hold this very sensitive topic in such a compassionate way. It really makes a difference. And I appreciate it from a real place.
Thank you. That means so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate you. Thank you for holding this space. We need this. We need more of this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, this is what we do, y'all. We are doing our best to bring you programming that will challenge and inspire you, right? And get that conversation going, y'all. And the conversation does not stop here. We can continue the conversation in the comments. You can continue sharing. You can continue tagging your friends, right? I want y'all to run over to Portia's Spaces at the Portia Brown. I also put the links into the chat for both the mindful sex and pleasure program. So I'm going to drop that link one more time, as well as the link to Portia's newsletter, so that you will be aware when the Sacred Village opens and starts accepting some of us into that fold. I do want you, if you have not already, put one thing that you are taking away from our time tonight. I have a couple quick announcements that I want to make right quick. One of those is that we are not having a Brownversations this upcoming Monday. Brownversations will be back on July 31st. I am actually going to be leaving tomorrow morning to go to St. Martin to join all the ladies for the Girlfriends Getaway. So we'll get back from that on Monday, when we would usually have Brownversations. So we won't have Conversations until the 31st. So mark your calendars for that. Sab and I will be back with the shenanigans. Okay. Want to make sure that everybody is connected to us in all of the ways that matter. So make sure that you have gone to our website, beautifulbrowngirls.com. There you'll be able to see all of our in-person brunch chapters. We have over 43 chapters across the U.S. as well as abroad. You'll also be able to learn more about our mission and what we do here at Beautiful Brown Girls and the type of spaces that we create. You can also like us on Facebook at Beautiful Brown Girls and YouTube at Beautiful Brown Girls. We have a Facebook group called Beautifully Shaded. We're on Instagram at Beautifully Shaded, and on Twitter, as long as it's around, at Beautiful Brown You. Okay, so want to make sure that you get that. And while you out there clicking around, y'all, and doing all the things, please do swing over by me. Okay. Again, my name is Kimberland, and you can find me at Kimberland J, or Minding My Black Ass Business, or at KimberlandJackson.com. So having said all of that, Portia, the people thought it started late, girl. It was like, oh Lord, I'm just getting in here. What did I miss? What is the final word that you would like to leave with our community before we retire for the night?
So the inspiration for most of my work is Audre Lorde, which, if you don't know, Audre Lorde is a Black queer feminist scholar, and she wrote this essay called Uses of the Erotic as Power. If you Google Audre Lorde erotic, you'll find a YouTube video of her reading this essay. It's less than a 20-minute video, and it's fascinating. But my favorite part of this essay is where she talks about, and I'm summarizing and paraphrasing, but she talks about this idea that pleasure is how we're going to get free. Pleasure is our key to no longer accepting subjugation and oppression. That's why I'm here and doing what I do, talking to you all, because I believe it in my heart with every fiber of my being that when, especially Black women, especially when Black queer women, especially when Black trans women, Black sex workers, when we learn to tap into pleasure unapologetically and just for us, that is the key to not only our individual liberation, but our collective liberation. I'm not all lubes and sex toys. I talk about that stuff too, but I care about this because I care about us getting free. There's a lot of stuff happening in America, a lot of stuff happening in the world right now, and this is how we're going to get free, or at least a big part of the conversation around liberation in this country and in this world. So while it might be fun to kiki and laugh and talk about sex and talk about our trauma, talk about things that we struggle with, for me, the message is not as resounding as it could be unless we talk about how it fits into our liberation as a whole. So when you go on your pleasure journey, when you finally decide I'm going to take my sex life more seriously, remember that it's not just about you. You being here tonight is not just about you. It's about all of us collectively getting free. And go listen to Audre Lorde.
Girl, well, that's it, y'all. Okay, ain't nothing else to say. We'll see y'all next time on on Brown Girl Boss and BBG TV. Portia, thank you so much again. Y'all share. Tag your people. Share it. Send it out, right? It's on Facebook and YouTube. So if they ain't got the Facebook, send them over there to the YouTube, honey, and tell them to watch this because our freedom depends on it. All right. We will see y'all next time. All right. Bye, y'all.